Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self.
Good morning, badass.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I am doing well. I am on vacation, and so are you.
I know, we're both on the road today.
Yes, that's so.
Tell
great.
People where you're coming from.
I am in Sedona, Arizona. So this is our second time here as a family, and our kids are far more interested in the heated pool than they are in any of the landscape. The first time we were here, they were totally into the landscape. This time they're like, we've done this, and this is a heated pool. And we're from Wisconsin, and it's 60 degrees out, so it's summer. So everyone, people are stopping and they're like, where are you guys from? We're like, Wisconsin. And they're like, that makes sense. And then they walk away.
What does that mean?
Because it's so cold for them. And these kids are splashing around in this outdoor pool, for hours. I mean, yesterday they swam for 7 hours.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
So, well, we've been swimming as well. So we are in St. Simons, Georgia. And so I had to add the Georgia because when I told people St. Simons, they're like, oh, is that in the Caribbean? I was like, no, it's just in the southern part of Georgia. It's just a tiny island. And we actually, the place that we got has a pool. And you had the option of getting it heated. And we were like, yeah, okay. So we have a heated pool. We got in it last night. So it was freezing outside, 39 degrees. And we went, we turned it up to 99. So we were all swimming in a 99-degree pool.
This pool's only 80 degrees. 99, that's like a hot tub.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we were let's make it a hot tub. And Jay is in there this morning. Riley's in there. We also have my sister-in-law came and joined us. The reason we're down there is for baseball, for Gavin's baseball tournament. And so they've already been swimming this morning.
And Gavin what is he doing? Is he busy?
Yeah, they came down yesterday on the bus. Okay. So the team came down. They're at a hotel, so they're all together. We decided not to do the hotel. We're like, let's get our own little place.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm so glad.
Well, I see some people coming in and saying hello, so I'm going to pull those up. So Karen, thank you so much for joining us. And so it's so good to connect with you and see you. I'm not sure if this is the first time you've been on here. Let us know. I feel like maybe you've been on at least once, but I've been connecting with Karen on LinkedIn with the things that she's been doing. I just love her energy, and she does these little short reels that are so cute. So if you guys haven't checked her out, go check her out. We also have Miss Kim.
Good morning, Karen.
Yeah, she says good morning and happy Friday to my favorite beautiful badass ladies. And so she had to wish it for me the last time because you were unable to join us. And so she had to make it a lady.
I know. You know what I think I had, because we were in Albuquerque and we had just arrived because we're doing kind of a road trip. I think I had some altitude sickness. I think that's what it was, because it was short-lived and no one else had it. And so... And we, as a family, when we went to Colorado, one of our kids got it, so we were kind of familiar, but that's what we think. So,
yeah, she said, what's SSI?
St. Simons. So I first learned about St. Simons because Kim's parents have a place there, and her aunt and uncle. So Kim goes to St. Simons quite often.
Oh, I didn't know that, Kim.
Yeah, she works from there sometimes.
Nice.
It's great. when she first started working for us, she would haul both of her monitors there. I don't know if she still does that, but she was like, I cannot work just on a laptop. So she would take full monitors in her car to St. Simon and set it all up. I just thought it was awesome.
Awesome. Well, Karen did say that it is her first time, so welcome. And so you're in for a treat today. Today is our panel that we're going to be talking with. And so this year we are covering the 12 universal laws. And this month we're going to be covering the Law of Oneness. And what we do is the first week we cover what it is. Typically the second week we then have a person joining us as a guest talking about their life and how that law relates to them. We sometimes switch depending on what ends up making sense based on schedules. We then do typically the vulnerable week where Kate and I talk about how the law relates to us. We get vulnerable. Then the fourth week we talk with a panel. This week we're switched. And so today we're going to have the panel talk about their experiences with the Law of Oneness. So we have some things we're going to be bringing them on. So welcome, and everybody connect with Karen. And so thank you so much for coming. We have some other as well.
I love my ring just fell off. I love Karen's spelling of her name because my Kate is spelled with a C. And I always love it when I see a C replacing a K for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah. So my middle name is with a C as well.
Yes.
Yeah. We have Cindy coming. And so morning, badass ladies. Thank you, Cindy, for coming here. It's good to see you again. And then we also have Ernest coming from YouTube. He says, you go. And so Ernest, if you guys haven't checked him out, I'm connected to him also on Facebook. And I think he's also related to one of the panelists. And so that's here. But Ernest actually has some books that he's really great at poems and different things like that, just writing. I was sitting there the other day reading some of the stuff that he had. There was one called Rainbow Jesus, which I thought was interesting. So I was going through the different ones. So if you aren't connected to Ernest, you can find him probably on Facebook and LinkedIn. And he has some really interesting things that he's doing. So thanks for joining us, Ernest. Yeah. Oh, and Kim said this is one of her favorite places. So awesome. All right. And then we also have Lisa joining us. She said, happy Friday, everyone. And so if Lisa, if you guys haven't checked out Lisa was actually on a past episode with us. She actually covers topics on menopause. And Kate and I learned a lot. We didn't realize that there was also andropause, which is also for men, that men go through it. And I didn't realize that every woman goes through menopause, whether they know it or not.
Well, and sounds silly, but I didn't, even though I should have, and I'm laughing at myself, but I didn't realize that I had already been through menopause until that episode, because I'd had a full hysterectomy and I just didn't really think about it that way. I mean, I knew that it was going to be menopause-like symptoms, but for whatever reason, I still thought I'll experience that when I'm in my 50s because I'm only 45, Right. And then she's like, nope, the year after you had your hysterectomy was menopause. I was like, oh, cool. Okay. So I'm done now.
By the way, she said she loves your necklace.
Thanks, Lisa.
And Karen says it took her a while to embrace the C, I think, in her name for Karen. And so that's awesome. So, well, as you guys continue to join us, continue to say hello. Let us know that you're here. But let's bring up our panelists, and I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction to them as well. So, but let's first just say hello. And so we have with us, if you guys can make sure you're off of mute, we have Rene Duron, and we have Melissa Ellen that is joining us. And so welcome, everyone. And I want to do some official introductions, but I just wanted to allow you guys just to say hello.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for showing up. Hey, happy to be here.
Awesome. All right. Well, I want to do a little bit of an introduction just so you guys know who our panelists are. And so I'm excited to introduce Rene Duron. And he not only excels in his primary career by day, but he also does a remarkable side hustle as well. And so by day, he works for the San Antonio Water Systems as a construction specialist. And when we asked him, what is that? He says that it's a fancy way to deliver bad news to executives. And when we dug into that a little bit deeper, we found out that what he does is he's on the technology side of the house. So he really is responsible for people that know what Tableau is, creating dashboard and reports to be able to report upon project budgets, KPIs. For those who don't know what KPIs are, key performance indicators. Yes, thank you, Kate. And just at his firm, and he also holds a license with the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. But I think the most exciting part, beyond that technology side, is what he does by night. He is the founder and a podcast editor at Duron Styles. And he's really just a great example of someone identifying opportunities in his life and building a side gig or a side hustle to just take on the world and do more. So welcome, Rene.
Thank you for your introduction. You are too kind. Thank you.
And then we also have Melissa Ellen. And so Melissa Ellen started out as a student of Mama Jan Smith, and she started out as an apprentice and later joined at the staff as a vocal coach. And Melissa has trained numerous artists at Jan Smith Studios while continuing to pursue her own musical career. And her performances have included sharing the stage with notable artists, just a couple to mention, Toni Braxton and India Ari, to name a couple. And she also has recorded 2 full-length albums and is a voting member of the Recording Academy, the Grammys, as well as multiple other institutions as well. But Melissa, we might ask you a question on whether you voted for Beyonce for that country album, because people seem to be up in arms on that, but we'll talk about that later. But Melissa also has received awards for her teachings and songwriting, and she co-managed a booking agency, all of which has enhanced her knowledge to further educate artists on how to make a living in the music industry. Melissa also has a side hustle as well, something that she learned over time, something that I, at the time, my ex, that we noticed about her early on. So I actually took vocal lessons from Melissa. I won't say how many years ago, but several years ago. But one of the things that she has discovered about herself is she also does certified healing. She's a certified healing touch practitioner and intuitive. And it was one of the things that she, it took her a while to embrace about herself. And so I'm glad that she is doing that. I also say that not only does she have the talent to be able to help people connect with themselves vocally, she also has a way of helping people connect energy-wise with themselves as well. So thank you, Melissa, for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you.
All right.
I'm so excited about this panel.
I knew you would be. I didn't really tell Kate any background on you two, and so I was just curious how she would respond as I was introducing both of you.
Yes,
cool.
Yeah, super excited. Oh, thank you for being here.
Yeah,
my pleasure.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, today we're going to be talking about the Law of Oneness, or continuing that conversation. And really, we're going to be talking about what it teaches us in recognizing the ripple effects of our actions and how they can make an impact in our community. And our panel really is going to be talking from their own experience so we can gain insight into the things and how the Law of Oneness has impacted them. Regarding change and ripple effects and loneliness and a host of different types of topics, from diversity to unity, So we're going to be talking about all kinds of different types of things today, but we want to welcome you to also ask questions of our panel related to this topic as well. So I'm just going to dive in. The one that I love the most is ripple effects. And so can you provide maybe an example in your life where maybe a small action created a ripple effect in your community? And Melissa, do you want to start?
No.
Absolutely. You are the first person that has ever said no, and I
love it.
Love it.
I usually am pretty good about saying what I feel, so I'm getting better. But yeah, I don't mind saying no. But I actually don't want to start, but I totally will. Thank you.
I can start. If you really don't want to, I volunteer to start.
Okay, go ahead. Thanks.
Okay, if that's fine with you, Sarah and Kate.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So maybe I missed the mark a little bit with the question, but I will say the ripple effect was for me, and I'm part of the community, right? So so recently, it was last year, I read a book by Michael Easter called The Comfort Crisis. And the author of the book, he's a sports medicine reporter, journalist, and I won't get into his practice too much, but he was challenging conventional methods of health and conventional pharmaceutical solutions to health and fitness and things like that. And he went down a rabbit hole of chasing answers to his big questions, and he ended up meeting like a famous outdoors person who had like a practice doing rehab and like sports therapy type stuff with big names like in the NBA and the NFL. And that guy, I don't remember his name, but he challenged Michael Easter to come with him to Alaska in the wintertime and survive for a month. And he proposed that this experience will have all the answers for you. I can tell you with my mouth the answers to what you're asking, but I want you to come experience it out here in the wilderness. And the book is around his learnings about the comfort crisis, about how our maybe some folks' obsession with comfort is preventing them from operating at their best potential. And I read that book and it shot me right here, right in between the eyes. It's like, oh man, like that got me good, because I've had ebbs and flows in my life where I'm like locked in and hard charging, grinding it out, and then I take a break. I reach that next milestone and then I kind of slack, and I kind of slack on the discipline and in many areas, right? Well, this book came right on time because it prompted me to go on a misogi challenge, and that's another thing that they talk about in the book. And misogi is a Shinto practice. It's a Japanese practice where the samurai will sit under a waterfall, and the cold water and the force of the waterfall and staying there is supposed to sharpen you mentally, physically, and spiritually. And it has its modern twist now, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to do a similar thing, go embark on my own misogi challenge. And shout out Adam Hoots, because I told Adam Hoots about this book, and I was talking to him. I was like, man, I really want to do a misogi. I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I'll run a marathon, because I had never run a marathon before. I've run like a 10K, but never a marathon. And I was like, that would be pretty difficult. Maybe that'll be good for the misogi. And Adam's like, nah, man, that's too easy for you. That wouldn't do it. That's cheating. He called me out. That's cheating. It's like, And then shout out Brad Coleman, because I told Brad Coleman about it, and he was like, have you ever heard of the Spartan? And I was like, no, what's that? And then he sent me a link to the Spartan races, and it's like a marathon, right? But there's obstacles that involve climbing and jumping and crawling and all that kind of stuff, right? Well, I was like, I know myself. I need to commit now. I need to commit right now, and I need to get it. I need to get it scheduled now, and I need to do it soon. I don't want to schedule something for like next year or whatever. Well, the closest race to my date when I finished that book and I was like, I'm gonna do this. It was in October, and it was the Spartan Ultra Marathon, which is a 50K. And I've never, mind you, I've never done even so much as a 10K. And I was like, I'm doing it. That's what we're gonna do. And I did, and I followed through. Now we're gonna get to the ripple effect now. That race meant so much to me because I too was seeking answers to myself. And man, I found them and more. And there was a volunteer there. There's a whole group of volunteers that operate the stations and the obstacles, and they man the little medic stops along the way, the checkpoints and things. Okay, well, one of the things is when you fail an obstacle on a Spartan, you're supposed to go through a penalty lap. And I failed this obstacle. It was my second lap. So it was a 2-lap race. Each lap was 15 miles long with 60 obstacles along the way. And I was on my second lap and I was smoked. I was really smoked. I was like really struggling through the obstacles. Well, I failed this one and I had to do my penalty lap. And it just so happened that this particular penalty lap had like this huge mud pit with like, I want to say like 1.5 feet, 2 feet of mud. And I failed the obstacle, so I had to go. And as I was walking, I started sinking into the mud. And I was so smoked, I couldn't lift my legs without cramping to get my feet out of the mud. And I knew from training for the Spartan that if I allow myself to cramp up, I'm toast. Like, I'm not going to finish this race if I cramp up all the way. And I felt myself cramping on my quad. And I was like, oh my God, please, Lord, please let me finish this race, please. And I'm struggling and I pull my foot out, but my shoes stay behind. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I'm digging with my hands to try to find my shoes. And it was like there was like a current of water under the mud because I couldn't find my shoes to save my life. And man, I'm telling you, like, I was very depressed at that moment. And all the negative thoughts started creeping in, and just telling myself really nasty things about myself and thinking about how I'm gonna go explain this to the folks that are rooting for me and that believe in me and who I told, and they're like, there's no way you're gonna do it. And having to tell them, yeah, I couldn't do it because I don't have my shoes anymore. And like this terrain is horrendous. It was like rocky. It was in Granbury, Texas, rocky Texas hill country, cactus everywhere. Unless you're like David Goggins, you're not gonna run that race with no shoes. And I was like, well, I quit, right? I told myself in my mind that I quit. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna walk out here barefooted with just my socks, and I'm gonna walk to the next aid station, and I'm gonna just tell them to get me out of here. And that's what I said. I counted myself out. And as I was walking, I kept thinking, I kept hearing the voices telling me, like, man, like, yeah, you couldn't do it. I mean, yeah, you're nothing, and here you go, quitting again. And I was like, man. And then I started praying. I was like, Lord, please let me finish this race. And I started praying out loud, and I started walking. I just kept walking. And lo and behold, this is the community part. One of the other racers came up behind me, and he's like, hey, man, what's going on? Like, are you all right? I was like, no, I'm not all right. And he's like, where's your shoes at? And I was like, I lost them in the mud pit. He's like, oh, man, you don't have any spares? I'm like, no, I don't. He's like, what size are you? He asked me what size I am. I was like, 11. He's like, well, I have some 10.5s, and they're this brand, and they run a little tight. I don't know. But it's at the, I forgot what it's called, the midpoint, where there's a midpoint. Once you get to the midpoint, you have a stash of stuff. And he's like, they're over there, the midpoint's about 8 miles away. But I know it's a long shot, but you're out of luck, bro. Like, so what do you think? You can have them if we can get there. And I was like, yeah, dude, I'll take it. Any shoes is better than no shoes. So he's like, I'll stay with you. I'll stay with you as we walk to the next aid station. I was like, yes. And then like the wind started picking up in my sails, right? So I went from depressed to now I have hope. And we're walking and talking, and we get to the aid station. And we're telling the volunteer, like, hey, can you help us? Is there any way you can call another volunteer to go drive us the shoes from the midpoint and bring them over here? And he's like, hey, man, like, and he kind of gave us a look like that's not going to happen. Like I said, the terrain is horrendous. There's really no trail to drive on, period, right? So you would have to cut through the forest. He's basically telling us it's not going to happen, dude. And like, man, and he's like, but I'll ask. That's what he said. I'll ask. The volunteer said, I'll ask. And he got on the radio, and he radios another volunteer, and he says, hey, we got the situation. This guy needs shoes. They have backup shoes at the midpoint, and they're like, stand by. And we're standing by for like 10 minutes or so. No answer. And in the Spartan, if you're not at a certain point in the Spartan Ultra race, they get you off the course because you only have, I think it was like 16 hours to finish. So if you're not at a checkpoint, you're out. So time is ticking. It's not like I can stay there forever. I still had like, I don't know, like 12 more miles to go. And he's like, you know what, man? And he looks at me and he proceeds to take off his shoes. The volunteer took off his shoes and then he gives them to me. He's like, you want to wear my shoes? I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, man, finish your race. I was like, oh my God. Thank you, Lord. I cannot believe it. And it's beautiful because he had no idea what this race meant to me. This was more than just like a check, on the checklist of a bucket list. Like this, I came here seeking answers about myself, to learn about myself, to challenge my limits physically and mentally and spiritually. And he allowed me to do that. I wouldn't have been able to do that. And I would have went home defeated and depressed. But he allowed me that experience by showing me kindness to give me the shoes off of his feet. And he didn't even know me. I've never met the guy. And I just thought that was amazing. And his name was Lance. And I've been trying to find him. I don't know his last name. I didn't get his last name, but I still have his shoes. So maybe the community can help me find this Lance.
So where was this in Texas?
It was in Dallas, Granbury, Texas.
All right. Anybody in Dallas, Granbury, Texas that knows a Lance that handles the Spartan race? Oh my gosh. That is an amazing story. And such a good example of not only inner endurance in trying to muster up and figure out how it is you're going to overcome for yourself, but also just the collective nature of people willing to put themselves out and just the ripple effect. So did you finish the race?
I did. I finished the race. Thank God. Yeah. I finished the race, and I'm going to sign up for another one, but this time I'm going to do the trifecta this year. So it'll be like, I think like 70 miles or 80 miles total over the span of 3 days.
And you're going to bring an extra pair of shoes.
Yeah, and I'm going to bring shoes. Yeah, if not for me, for somebody else. So there's more ripple effects, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
That is an amazing
I bring
story.
a couple shoes.
Right? Being a shoe rack.
Yeah. That was an amazing story. And thank you so much for sharing. I was really into it. Like, I was like, what is happening next?
Yeah.
I loved it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you giving me that feedback because, like, I'm trying to this year, especially, I'm trying to overcome my limiting beliefs, and sometimes there's that thought that says like you don't really have anything worth sharing. So I really appreciate all of this, all this whole experience. Thank you.
Well, Megan here said, I know it's her because I have it up on the side. What an incredible example of radical gifting and community care. And so, by the way, Maria's here. She was like, "Wait, is it Rene?" She joined a little bit later, and I said, "Yes, it is." And we also have Divine with us as well. She said, "Hello, everyone. Good to see you back, Kate." And so with that, I want to turn it over to Melissa. Melissa, Karen said, "Oh my God, she loved your honesty in just starting us off with a no." Let me just sort of recap the questions that we're posing to you. So if you can give us an example in your own life where a small action created a ripple effect in your community.
Okay. I'd be happy to speak on that. Thank you, Rene, for the story. That was really cool. It's like I was kind of going, okay, so you're in this incredible experience for yourself that as you doubt and as you start doubting yourself, somebody says, "Here, let me help you," so that you could actually follow through with your own stuff. So it was almost like they were sent to negate whatever was going on in here, and give you the opportunity. I thought that was just a really cool story. So thank you. I was actually thinking, just from the work that I've done as an energy worker and a healer and primarily as a vocal coach for that many years. Anyway, I realized that so much of the work, there are so many times where, I'm teaching people, do, re, mi, or we're working on ear training or whatever, but it's so much deeper than that. And that's essentially, that's why I got into being an energy worker and a healer and doing other things, because there's a lot of healing work in voice. So what I found that has happened is that through working with people, we're working on tone and clarity. And next thing you know, I'm like, I ask my clients, okay, where does this show up in your life that you're not using your voice, that you're not speaking? There might be a client who comes in and is like, well, I've always wanted to sing, but I'm afraid. Okay. Or for different reasons that they want to use their voice. They want to be famous, but there's, plenty of people that are just like, when they start singing, they're like super quiet or breathy, or every time they come to lessons, they're sick, and I'm like, okay, where else are you? Where else does this show up in your life? Are you getting a sore throat every time you have to face conflict? Kate, with people who don't like conflict, it's like people who don't speak up for themselves. So I have found that through teaching voice lessons, there's so much more life in it. There's so much more life lesson. And I've had several, if not many, occasions where, whether a client is aware of it or not, I see them all of a sudden, they're like speaking up for themselves, or it wasn't about the performance that they did that they've always wanted to do. It's like, okay, well, now they said, I won't let you treat me this way, and the relationship changed. Or they quit their job, or spoke up to a sibling, or maybe they told somebody they love them that they've never said that before. And it's this idea of really finding, being okay with speaking, being okay with saying something out loud, being okay with using your voice. And it ends up, the ripple effect is in that whatever happens with them, they pass that on because they speak up to somebody else. And then the next person is like, well, however whatever that experience is. Sometimes you speak up to somebody, they're like, F off, So you could always have that reaction, right? But then both of them have the opportunity to deal with that experience, right? So the bottom line is that in teaching people and getting them more comfortable with using their voices, that in fact that does ripple, because they speak up for themselves, and then the next person does, and the next person does, and whatever. I do have a story to share. Does time permit for that?
Go for it.
Okay, so I'm shy about it because I'm already going to cry. but I want to share it. So let me compose. Speaking of, like using your voice, right? So my family upbringing was, now that I understand life, it was beautiful and fabulous. But there was a lot of trauma there. So going through it and living a life where people didn't say, I love you. And there was a lot of violence and dysfunction and things like that. And so I know, because of my beautiful mother, I know that I was loved. And I know that my siblings and I, like I said, nobody ever was like, hey, let me hug you. Hey, let's spend time together. It was just so uncomfortable. There was none of that. And like I said, my mom loved us all very dearly. So we knew that. And her actions proved it all the time. But nobody said anything. And so years and years later, after I have done a lot of my own work, I have forgiven a lot so that I can move on. And in 2011 or 2010, I went to visit my dad. There was a lot of strain there, but it was like kind of pointless to go, well, you hit me, or, we weren't estranged. We just went about our business, right?
Yeah.
So out of the four of us siblings, I had the opportunity where I could go and help him if he needed it, and we thought he was going to die and all kinds of things. So I sacrificed. It worked out in my life. So I went up there, and my father was still my father. I did my work. He doesn't know that there's work to be done. So he was the same person. He was still angry. He was still sad. He was still very sick. He was still mean. And every day, I would come downstairs to the kitchen where he was, and, good morning and whatever. And I would give him a hug, and which weren't things that we did, and okay, like I would just hug him. So I guess sometimes maybe he would hug me back. I don't even know. I don't even notice. And we go about our lives, and I make my breakfast and do whatever. And sometimes we'd get in conversation, and I would tell him that I loved him, and he would never respond to that. I don't need him to respond. I didn't need that. I did my work, right? So I would just tell him, because I thought that's a really good thing to say to somebody, and especially if you believe it. So this is months that go by, and one day I come down to breakfast, and he's sitting at the kitchen table, and he goes like this. Yep. And I felt like I had done something for him, that he was accepting love from somebody, and he was able to be in it or ask for it or whatever. And I don't know that that's ever happened in his whole life, And so, so at one point, I also told a sibling, well, I love you or whatever. And it was very difficult because we never did that stuff. And now, about 10 years later, my siblings will tell me they love me, and they will also tell each other. And that's the ripple. So,
Wow.
The end.
That's beautiful.
Oh, and before he died, my father actually told me he loved me, but it was so hard for him. I felt so bad. It was so difficult. He's like, okay. And when I would tell him I loved him, he'd say, I don't know what to say to that. And I would say, nothing. Like, what do I care? I said, I'm just telling you, you don't owe me anything. So I let him off the hook,
Wow.
Because I didn't need it back. I was doing what I felt, right? So anyway, at one point he called me when I was living in Atlanta, probably a year or so before he passed. And he said, okay, like, I want to tell you something, and you can't tell anybody else. Like, he was like having such a difficult time. Yeah. And he didn't want me to tell anybody else that he said it. And you know, he was joking. But anyway, he told me he loved me, and I was so thankful that he was able to do that for himself before he died. I appreciated it. I think that's great. But I thought, what an effect I had there. And like I said, I think the ripple, it wasn't just me helping him. It was that helped me and allowed me to say that to other people, and it allowed him to experience it, and it allowed my siblings to then, say that they can all say it to each other, or they can say it to me, or whatever the case may be. Anyway, it was a great experience. So thanks for letting me tell that story.
I got to tell you, I love both of your stories. And for me, I don't know what it is, but sometimes I just feel like I end up finding individuals or choosing individuals, and I don't know why I'm drawn to them. I'm like, I don't know. I feel like, Rene was like, what, you want me for this? And then, then I reached out to Melissa, and it's been a while since Melissa and I had connected. And so I don't know what it is, but both of your stories are so impactful for this particular topic. And it really I got chills as you guys were talking, just going, wow, these stories are like so fun for the topic. It's just amazing.
Thank you. Awesome. I'm so glad. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, both of you, first of all, you're amazing storytellers. And the vulnerability that you both had was just really hit home for me. And I love the ripple effects, and they're totally different. But Melissa, I just admire how much you truly healed before you put yourself in that situation. And then what you were able to give, talk about energy and light work. You're amazing. So I thank you so much for being here and for sharing that story. And Rene, I just have to tell you this, and I try not to focus too much on physical features, but man, your smile could just fucking light up the world.
Thank you.
Gosh, you just, you smile with your whole body. It comes through, your soul or something is coming through that smile, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, I have a question. Because man, it's like it's all coming together, right? Right, like Sarah was saying. Why did Sarah feel this tug, this almost like spiritual tug to get us all in the same room? Even not physically, right, but spiritually, we're all in the same space. And your story, Melissa, it's perfect. It's just right on time for me because I'm struggling. So I'm trying to overcome, and I've become aware that I have sought external validation for things, and like you were talking about telling your father that you loved him, and not expecting him to say it back, but you still did it anyway.
Like with zero expectation.
Yeah, zero expectation. And I've been guilty of I close my mouth because I'm like, I don't want to say X or Y. I don't have no problem saying I love you to people, but I have problems saying other things to people because I feel like, they're not going to say it back, or they're not going to receive it, or I have some kind of sick expectation in my head, even though it's innocent in my brain, but it still closes my mouth. How can you help me get over that? Like, how, I can't imagine doing that if I was in your shoes, especially with your childhood that you described. How do you do that? How does one strengthen that muscle of I would call it unconditional love?
Yes, thank you. I think I started it with, I did my work. So my father and I didn't really talk, but again, we weren't estranged. It's just, he wasn't somebody I wanted to hang out with. It's not like we had things to talk about. And he wasn't great at conversation. He didn't want anybody to bother him. He didn't care. So as long as, he had his needs met, then he didn't give a crap about anybody else. So I think so much of that was me doing my work, and it was years of it. When I was in college, I was going to the psychology department, to try I think I need therapy, I hated myself, right? But I learned it. I learned to squash myself.
Yeah.
I learned to hate myself. So something inside of me said, I don't want to feel like that anymore. And then over the years, it became, there's like I am of value. And there's, so again, so much of it was in my own work with myself, and also teaching and working with voice. So that's my personal thing. How I can share it with you is, well, take some voice lessons. Speaking. But aside from that, I think it made such a difference for me to not need a response. I wanted to say, I love you. That was for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that he would be uncomfortable, but that's not my responsibility. Right. I don't need to take responsibility for his feelings. And I think that's what happens with so many people, is that, you're like, well, I don't want them to feel bad if I bring up something, or even if you compliment somebody, they might feel like they need to say something back to you. That's not your problem. You're not responsible for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
so
powerful.
if you can say what you want to say. Now, of course, I don't agree with necessarily, I don't want you to be mean. That's not where this conversation's going, but it's funny how sometimes it's harder for us to say nice things. And again, another person feels obligated. Like I went through this thing. I'm like, I am at that point in my life, I didn't have a job, or, I didn't have the money. So like, I wasn't buying gifts for people for Christmas. Okay. Wow. They know I love them. I'm going to tell them in case they don't know. But do I owe them a Christmas gift because it's Christmas? No, I don't. So I don't need to take responsibility for the fact that their feelings might be hurt. I would hate that. And I would hope to, that wouldn't happen, or I could talk to them. But I also know that I can tell them how much I love them and whatever. And that has nothing to do with gifts, with physical presence. You know what I mean? The gift and the presence is so much more not literal. It's so much more figurative or esoteric than that. Anyway,
I definitely want to hone in on this, and I can tell Kate also wants to as well. I do want to pull this one thing up and just ask you, Melissa. Absolutely, the heart, throat, and voice are all connected. The thymus gland and higher heart of unconditional love. Now, was that where you had surgery? Was the thymus gland, or
no, the thymus is a little bit lower? It was my parathyroid, and I got a whole story behind that too. But that's,
well, the main, so some of the things that sort of stood out to me as I was listening to you guys, and Rene, thank you for diving in and asking the question. I really loved it. For me, some of the things that I also was listening to is generational connectedness. So think about the things that you guys are doing, and also how it relates to your family members. In Melissa's story, it very much relates to that ancestral breaking of the things that he probably also went through that we don't know about potentially, in his life. And so also, Rene, think about your family potentially as well, the things your parents went through and the things that they unintentionally maybe taught you in the things that you're thinking, and how each of you are breaking that ancestral cycle with, as you're continuing on. So I think that that's a super powerful thing to also think about.
Yeah, I agree. I also decided that I don't blame these people for whatever they did teach me, because we all do our best with whatever we have. So, my father gave me all that he could.
Exactly.
And, that unfortunately as a kid, that wasn't enough for me, but I learned my own path. And like I said, I had that in my heart to give to him. And it's not like I said, it's not your responsibility to take care of the other person. And, I hope you don't mind if I say this, like, just say the gosh darn thing. Whatever. And if somebody is mad about it, they're allowed to be mad. And you're welcome to apologize. You know what I mean? Like, however that transpires, post what you felt you had to say.
I love it.
You know what I mean?
Cindy related here. She said, short version, I would always tell my dad, I love you at the end of a phone call. And he would always say, thank you, until he ended up in the hospital one day. From then on, his response was, I love you. And so I love that. Cool. Thank you for sharing, Cindy.
That's awesome. And I have done that before. I have said, even now where I'm capable of saying I love you, if I really don't feel like, if I don't love you back, I will say thank you very much. Thank you, or whatever. But I also, past that, I also have, for me now on the planet, I have love for everybody. So I can say I love you to strangers and really mean it.
Yeah.
So,
all right, Kate, I could tell you wanted to dive in. What are your thoughts?
Oh my God, there's so much. There's so much here. And okay, so Rene, thank you for digging in and asking a question and turning this whole conversation into this kind of spiritual and almost like sacred connection that we have, right? And the power that Sarah has to bring what feels almost random, but ends up so fucking intentional, and you have no idea, right, that it's happening. So it's like you highlighted for me in that moment, Rene, so many reasons why not only do I stay connected to Sarah, but why, this movement that we are bringing to folks to help them be authentic and be vulnerable, why it means so very much, I think. And that in and of itself is like a ripple effect, right? Mm-hmm. And Melissa, you're just, the inspiration that you are providing and the ability to detach from the trauma, like that is true healing, right? Yeah. And I'm getting chills thinking about it, because
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and I've done that myself successfully, but I haven't really been able to like wrap the words around it, or maybe the words felt superficial until you were talking, and it just hit me so differently. So that was a ripple effect that I felt right there in that moment, just from the story that you were sharing.
That's brilliant.
I think that it's very powerful when we do things without expectation. That is when we really hold our own power with ourselves. So whether it's an I love you and not expecting I love you back, or doing something for someone and not expecting something back, that's when I have found that, unconsciously, as I've studied more about depth psychology, unconsciously we do things and we don't know why we're doing that. And we're connecting with people and we don't always necessarily know why we're doing it. But sometimes we seek in others what we really should be giving ourselves. That's really, I think, what Melissa's story is demonstrating, is that she needed the I love you, but where the I love you needed to come from was internal. It was the self-love, which is the tattoo, that Kate and her wife and her son have, is, it all surrounds that we can't give what we don't have ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, very true.
It's so important, and it was a lifelong journey for me to get to that point. And I can't go back. That's what I want to tell people that are struggling with self-love,
or they're it's not just the critical voices that you sometimes hear. Like that's normal, like
Right.
like that's science. That's like humanity. We all have these critical voices at times, or these negative thoughts. So it's not that, but there's a deeper thing going on when you don't love yourself, where like, and it manifests in shame, or it manifests in deeper, more negative emotions, or just a devaluing of yourself, right?
Right.
But keep pushing, because once you get to the point where you truly love yourself, the world just opens up for you like a beautiful flower, and you come to the point where you can tell strangers you love them. You can love with zero expectation, because you're good enough. Like you don't give a shit what anybody else, like, because I'm good enough. Like I'm doing, my intention is always good. Sure, I make mistakes. Sure, things don't go the way I plan sometimes, and people might get hurt. But my intention was always good. And I know that because I love myself, right? Because I'm aware of who I am and what I do. And there is no shame when you love yourself. So,
yeah, that's awesome. And I still work on it, by the way. There's areas where I don't have that confidence or love for myself. And I'm like, for crying out loud, I get frustrated, because I'm like, I know who I am. And then there's, times or other areas, it's like, I still got to work on it. It's, lifelong, I guess, lifelong process.
get a tattoo.
Right? I don't have any, and I'm like,
I don't mean either.
Right?
We've talked about this.
So, posted places, like just constant reminder. Like that's what's worked really well for me.
Can you show that more clearly, what you tattooed?
Yeah, it says self-love in two different ways, and it has a ripple in it. So like the point of the whole tattoo, I designed it, is that there's a source and then it ripples out. So it's a ripple effect of self-love.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
It keeps freezing.
And we have it, my wife has it on her face. So my wife has face tattoos, and it's backwards, so that when she looks in the mirror, it reads self-love.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's very unique.
Yeah. And then my son has knuckle tattoos, like that the tough guys have, but his says self-love.
Right.
So it's just cool. I'm hoping that all of our kids will do it in some way, but maybe they won't all get tattoos. Who knows? But right. For us, we're very into tattoos, but for us, it's that constant reminder, and putting the art directly on our bodies was a way for us to remember it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I got two comments I got to pull up. So Maria said, I spent a lot of time writing letters to past self and ancestors, but I'm trying now is letters to from future self. So she said, heart, be magical. Or is that
12 out of 10 recommended?
Okay, yeah. And 12 out of 10 recommended. And then Divine says, Melissa, yes, I understand the law of one will always bear back our genuine love. It's designed this way on purpose. So I love that. And so I just want to point out that we are one question in. But that's amazing, because it really does emphasize the importance of ripple effects and how a moment in life can really impact you significantly. And you just never know when that moment's going to happen. But what I also love is it requires awareness, self-awareness, that you needed to learn these lessons, because without understanding those things, and as Melissa said, diving deeper to understand more about yourself and what it is that you still need to potentially explore, or being open to what you don't know that you still need to know. For me, that's a lot of it. It's like, oh, I didn't know I needed to learn that. sometimes I get smacked in the face, with things, and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, that's something I'm supposed to be paying attention to, and I had no idea.
Well, you'll see it when you see it when you're ready to see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And how cool is it that we've been doing this. What episode are we on? In the 90s? I can't remember.
This is 92.
92, right? Okay, so we've done this. This is our 92nd time. And we've even had a couple of ones where we did audios where they weren't numbered. Okay, so maybe it's the 95th time. But anyway, we've never only done one question, right? Like there's a couple of times where we've done two, where we've done three. What an example of ripple effect. Like we just had an entire amazing hour with tears, with chills, with brilliant smiles and joy from one question.
I know.
One single question, like that in itself was the ripple. Like we just plopped that question down and shit popped off.
Right.
Good shit popped off.
And I do have to say the 92nd episode equals a Master 11 to 11.
Okay.
As well. So for those that are into numerology, I think that's super powerful as well. And so I know Melissa, you're into numerology, and Divine is also into numerology as well. So if there's anything you guys are picking up there as to this episode creating ripple effects and the power of Master 11. So
that's good. Well, just that 11 is a master number.
Yeah,
it's that's the universe is like, you got it. You're right. This is good. Yeah.
What is the significance in the number 11? I'm not familiar with this.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm not. I don't know it that well. Look, the 11 is a portal. Like 11 is a portal. Well, I kind of want Ernest to explain it because he's
or Divine, maybe Divine. I know you're super into numerology as well, and so. But one of the things they do as far as numerology is take your birthday, and so if you were born in November, it's an 11. So you add those together, it's a 2. If it's a 9, then you add the 9 to the 2, and again, it's an 11. Then you do so for me, I'm born 1974. I add all of that together. Each of those, I become a life path 5. So that's, my overall number. Sometimes you will see 11s, and those are people that have 11, 22, 33 life paths. That means that they have even more. So Master Builder is 22, for example, and that really means that you're going to have a lot of shit that you're going to go through in life, but you're also going to be able to build amazingly as well. And so, but you have a lot of hardship and a lot of things that you might have to go through. So it's understanding sometimes your life path and different things like that. So Divine is saying 9 is completion and birthing the new. 2 is harmony and connection. So 9 plus 2 equals 11. So 9 being the last one is completion, which I believe, this year is a 9. So we're in completing for the year of 2025. This is a completion of something for the year. And he said a choice to remain or the choice to evolve. Wisdom or Divine, if you have anything else on the 11, but it's really interesting to go down the numerology side of the house.
Yeah.
It's like, like a lot of philosophies and beliefs that we have, in traditions, they all go back to ancient times. So numerology started back in ancient Egypt and ancient Greece, and it is, in general, the principle that numbers are guiding our life and our path and the universe. So that's like at a high level where it comes from. And then people who study numerology are able to help us find patterns and define all these things, like what we're talking about, like what the 9s mean and what what they all mean and what you can see when you look around and numbers jump out to you and stuff like that.
It all breaks down to 1 through 9.
Mhm.
And then and so everybody's got like a single number, but then you also have like 11, I think is my understanding is that it's what's called a master number. And it's 11 is like the doorway to spirit, like a portal. And again, my other understanding is that like if you get 1111 on your clock, it's kind of the universe giving you a nod that you're doing the right thing, you're in the right place, that kind of thing. So I always wanted to be an 11 because I thought it was so cool. And just because I will tell you, so, you're supposed to add up your month, day, and then your year. I'm like, forget that. So my month and my day are 4 and 7, which is 11.
Mhm.
But the cooler part is that I was born premature, about 6 weeks early. And I weighed 4 pounds and 7 ounces. And they put me in the incubator, back then or whatever. And when I got up to 5 pounds or whatever, they took me out and I dropped back down to 4'7". I was like, I knew I was an 11.
Yeah, there it is.
I'm always trying to make myself an 11, even though I'm not. Anyway.
All right. So wisdom says 11, the 2 pillars of an open door or portal, ready to expand your awareness and experiences. And we are never bound or stagnant. We are always guided and supported.
Right.
And so, and this is, I think, let me see. Yeah. Megan, she said 11, 22, 33 are all master numbers. Yes. And so, she said all of those numbers matter combined. Yeah. So even my birthday, it's an 11, and then the 9 plus the 2 is an 11, and then you add the, so even all of those things. But I don't know, Rene, if you've ever seen, sometimes you'll look at the clock and I'll see like 1, 2, 3, 4, or I'll see 10, 10, or 11, 11, or 2, 2, 2, or, so I immediately in that moment, if you notice those things, go look up. And if you just type in whatever the number is, and then just say, you can say angel number meanings or just, spiritual meanings, things like that. It'll then tell you what that number means. And it's meant to give you an idea of how the universe is communicating to you.
Okay. So if I wanted to look up my birthday, what I do, because I'm August 19th, so I'd do 8 and 19. I would add those together.
Yeah, so you would go 8 plus 1 plus 9. And then what year were you born?
1994.
Okay, and then you would add, plus 1 plus 9 plus 9 plus 4. And then you would get
5. So
94.
So 5. I know. So 5 plus, and what was the day? 19, which is 10. So it's a 1. And then plus, you said August, so it's an 8.
Mm-hmm.
You are 5. You're the same as me. So you're life path 5, which is about, we're supposed to have fun this time around. We're about adventure.
Wow. Oh, look at that. Huh?
Yeah, each lifetime you got to do something different. This one's your 5.
Okay.
Time to have fun, Rene.
Cool.
My husband's a 5 too.
Got it.
Oh, that's
like
cool.
I gotta have more fun.
Jenna and I are both life path number 9s, which are very, humanitarian and creative and close. I think you gotta do it all or do like one more thing. Melissa, do you know more about life path 9?
I know that 9 is, the last one, so that you'd be finishing things here, and then you get a rebirth.
Very divine at the end. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Rene, my birthday is August 20th.
Wow, so, look at that.
Yes. And the Leo sun sign in you is a part of that brilliance that comes out, I think.
I want to have brilliance.
Do have brilliance.
So how do you do the number? What's mine?
Oh, so you're April, right? April.
It's 4-7.
Yeah.
And this is the part where I have to admit year. It's 1966.
1, 9.
And I'm sorry, that's why I burst out when you said 94. I'm like, oh my God, I thought people born in 94 were like 7 years old. Okay.
Tell me the day again. So
It's 4/7.
April
So it was
7.
2 plus, sorry. So 4 plus
7.
2. Well, she said it's a 4 and a 7, which is an 11, which is a 2. So 4 plus 2 is a 6. So life path 6.
What?
And I want
Yeah, 33 plus. So 3 plus 3 is 6. Yeah.
So life path.
So you
6
just
is
add
about-
up every single digit. Add up
Yep.
every digit. So add up every single one that is in your numbers. So it'd be like technically it would be 0 plus 4 plus 0 plus 7.
Yep.
Plus 1 plus 9 plus 6 plus 6.
Yep.
And then you get a 2-digit number, and then you add those together. So
your life path 6 is about nurturing and caring and helping others. And so you often seen as a natural leader and are known for being responsible and reliable. And so it's really about caring and helping to uplift, others and things like that. So
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Looks like I'm doing the right thing.
yeah.
Okay, good.
So I know that, we're sort of ending on the one question, but one thing I also wanted to end with today is also I wanted to play a song of Melissa's as well that I think is actually very appropriate for today. And so it's also, we had Buzz Amato on previously, and it is also a song that she collaborated with him on. And so it was
on the Muse?
It was on the Muse, and she
Okay,
also
so I've listened to it.
Yeah, on her original album as well. And I will also say that it was your second album. I actually did the artwork for Melissa, so that was whenever I did marketing consulting, and so and we talked about how I did one design for her, and she was like, "This is exactly what I had in mind." We were just intuitively in sync with each other. So definitely go out and check that out. So for me, if you like, 80s songs, or like, some of the songs, like everything from, there was Michael Jackson, there was, I'm trying to remember all of the different artists. There was the Police, there was all kinds of things, but Melissa took it to a completely different, mix or a different way of singing those songs that we all knew. So I definitely would encourage you to go check out Melissa Ellen. You can go to melissaellen.com to check her out and to go take a look at those old songs. And then I also want to say, go check out if you guys are doing podcasts or things like that. So go check out Rene, talk to him about how he can help you. So through Duron Style is his company. So go check him out. Yes, Melissa?
My website only has my vocal coaching on it now.
So it does. Okay.
If you and there's like, what I realized, my albums came out a long time ago. So now there's like a zillion Melissa Ellens. So I found myself by putting the album name in there, the second album that you did.
Yes. So forward. Forward in the past.
Into the past. Yeah.
Into the past. Yes. And so you can also it's still on Apple.
You can find it everywhere. It's just there's so many Melissa Ellens. Same with the other album. That's under Melissa Ellen too, and I used a pseudonym for that. But anyway, it's
awesome.
hard to.
All right. Well, I'm going to end with this song today. And I just want to say thank you both for coming. And oh my gosh, thank you to our audience for such an interactive session today. We didn't even get to all of the comments. I would encourage both of you to go back to LinkedIn, YouTube, things like that, to just check out all the amazing things that people said about you as well. And so, Kate, if you want to wrap things up for us, and then I'll play that song and we'll end things.
Thank you.
I feel absolutely blessed to have participated in this conversation with you two today. what a gift you are, and the ripple effects that you will have on all of us that experience and all of us that are going to, because this is out there. So the stories that you share today, the vulnerability that you allowed yourself to have in our presence was just a gift. And I'm eternally grateful. Thank you so much. And you guys are such badasses.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be on your show. This is amazing. This will absolutely have a lot of ripple effects with the people I'm exposed to. So thank you.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you very much. Yep.
That's awesome. Thank you, guys. All right, here we go. This is Angel in My Pocket by Melissa Ellen.
Got an angel in my pocket. Got an angel in my pocket. Sometimes I think about the many, many days I spent spinning down. Then I heard his message that I could stand my ground and I would be okay. Lately I see people willing not to be free everywhere. So I have to say, you two have a special way. You must create it.
Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next Friday.